Hi everyone, my name is Antonia Sabo. I'm a facade engineer consultant at Rambo, Denmark, and I'm going to talk about the impact of kinetic facades on building occupants, focusing on the psychological state and cognitive performance. This is a spin-off of my master thesis from 2 years ago from Aarhus University, which I did together with Kalliopi Armutaki. Kinetic facades have become a great potential of future sustainable buildings, but what we see is that they are mostly optimized for environmental conditions and aesthetic qualities, but they show no or very little consideration for people inside the buildings. We were wondering if there is a need for a more human-centered design, so we formulated two big questions. Do kinetic facades affect the people inside the building? And if yes, how can we analyze this? Also, the latest advancements of technology have demonstrated that immersive virtual reality has great potentials for analyzing human behavior and psychological performance. So the third question we asked was, is immersive virtual reality a suitable experimental tool to analyze the effects of kinetic facades on the people inside a building? So based on the formulated questions, we have come up with a hypothesis. The dynamic behavior of kinetic facades can affect the visual comfort, the psychological state, and the cognitive performance of building occupants, which can be analyzed through immersive virtual reality. To prove our hypothesis, we investigated four main topics: kinetic facades, human comfort, psychological analysis, and experimental protocol. First, we have investigated the characteristics of kinetic facades, and based on their kinetic mechanism, we have defined the following four typologies: folding, sliding, expanding, and transforming panels. Because our goal was to analyze the effects of the dynamic movements of kinetic facades, we decided to analyze one facade that we considered visually highly intrusive, which is the facade with expanding panels, and one that we considered visually less intrusive, the facade with sliding panels. Our next research topic was within human-centered design, investigating the parameters that are affecting the physical and psychological comfort of building occupants. After studying the advantages and disadvantages of several methods for psychological analysis, we concluded that creating a realistic virtual environment, performing a human experiment in VR, and using personal interviews for gathering data would be the most suitable research method for testing our hypothesis. Lastly, we investigated the protocol for creating the human experiment. It has 5 main steps, and I'm going to focus on these for the rest of the presentation. For the virtual environment, we have modeled 2 high-rise office buildings, one with the expanding and one with the sliding panels. The following Dynamo script was created for the panel movements, which are defined by a step of point 1 from a completely closed stage to completely open. Finally, we used Enscape to take the 3D model into VR. We made several adjustments to the virtual environment to ensure a visual realism that is suitable for psychological analysis. The experiment included a total of 10 scenarios, 5 in a meditative, private and calming environment, and 5 in an energetic, non-private and agitating environment. To analyze the effects of kinetic facades on human psychology, the questions were targeted to specific psychological factors, which were rated by the participants. From the experiment workflow, 2 main things can be highlighted. Before starting the experiment, each participant went through a calibration phase, and during the analysis, each participant experienced the spaces, scenarios, and questions in a randomized order. The last step of the human experiment was to create a plan for processing the data. The answers from all participants were gathered in Excel. The results would be calculated and interpreted through graphical diagrams and supported by statistical analysis. The following pictures show some of the participants as they are engaged in the experiment. The following slides will show some of the results of our experiment. Since the first 3 questions were used for calibration, question number 4 is the first question in our psychological analysis. In the quality of view, there was a gradual decline for both the expanding and sliding panels as the panels were closing. While there was no significant change in the feeling of privacy when the expanding panels were closing, there was a gradual increase in the case of the sliding panels. This is due to the fact that the expanding panels were in an environment with only nature and no people around, so the feeling of privacy was rated high in every stage of panel closeness, while the sliding panels were in an urban environment with many buildings close to the office. Therefore, the feeling of privacy was initially very low and gradually increased as the panels were blocking the view. The emotional state of the participants had a gradual decline for both the expanding and sliding panels as the panels were closing. The connectivity to the outside was strongly related to the amount of view the participants had, and it was also gradually decreasing as the panels were closing. A more surprising result was in the level of concentration. We noticed that the expanding panels start with a higher positive rating, while the sliding panels have a lower positive rating at 0%. We believe this is related to the surrounding environment, their feeling of privacy, and the feeling of being watched by the surrounding buildings. It was also interesting to hear the opinion of participants about the aesthetics of the panels. The participants who rated the expanding panels high, they would describe them as creative, futuristic, and stimulating, but the ones who rated them low, they would say they are aggressive and annoying. The same for the sliding panels. The participants who rated them high, they described them as minimalistic and simple, but the ones who rated them low, they would describe them as boring. So based on our results, we believe that the hypothesis formulated at the beginning of this presentation is proved. And if you want to take this further, we believe that new human-centered design parameters should be considered when designing kinetic facades. Based on the psychological analysis performed in the human experiment, we have translated these psychological factors into human-centered design parameters. We also think that using a human-centered design together with VR, we can support the social sustainability parameters of future projects. If anyone would like to know more about the experiment or is interested in implementing social sustainability parameters into their project, you're welcome to contact me at ansz@ramble.dk. Thank you for your attention.